Just when you thought global trade couldn't get more complicated, President Trump made a shocking move. On April 8, 2025, President Trump imposed a staggering set of tariffs on imports, a 145% tariff on Chinese goods, and a 10% base tariff on nearly every country's imports into the United States. News outlets everywhere are buzzing with speculation. What does this mean for the future of trade and the global economy? But wait, what does this actually mean for you and the world? Can we expect a global trade war? Will the US economy benefit, or are we all headed towards economic turmoil? Let's break this down and explore the real impact of these tariffs. To understand the full impact of these tariffs, let's first define what they actually are. A tariff is essentially a tax imposed on imports or exports between countries. In the case of Trump's new policy, it means that the goods and products coming into the US will be more expensive. But it's not just a simple tax. These tariffs are strategically aimed at protecting US industries, correcting trade imbalances, and, in some cases, punishing countries seen as unfair trade partners like China. The question is, will this push the US to greater economic independence or lead to an all-out trade war with other countries? Now that we understand what these tariffs mean, here are some critical questions you should be asking yourself. Are these tariffs truly in the best interest of America's economy, or do they hurt the average consumer? Will these tariffs lead to a full-blown trade war? And what could that mean for the global economy? How will other countries respond to these tariffs, and what consequences will that have on global trade? Are there any long-term benefits, or are we looking at short-term political gain at the expense of economic stability? And finally, how will these tariffs affect you, whether you live in the US or abroad? Let's start with the US economy. We're already seeing the effects of these tariffs on American consumers and businesses. According to the Penn-Wharton budget model, the US economy could face an 8% reduction in GDP if these tariffs continue. Meanwhile, households could pay up to $3,800 more annually due to rising consumer prices. Small businesses, especially those relying on Chinese imports, are already feeling the pressure, with costs rising and supply chains becoming unstable. But, as always, there are two sides to every coin. Some argue that these tariffs are protecting US manufacturing jobs and forcing American companies to be more competitive on the global stage. The question is, do these domestic benefits outweigh the costs to consumers and businesses? Now, let's zoom out and look at how these tariffs are shaking up the global trade system. The European Union, for instance, is furious. With the new tariffs in place, they fear that Chinese goods, previously bound for the US, will flood into European markets, driving prices down and disrupting local industries. China, too, is already making moves. President Xi Jinping has been actively seeking stronger ties with Southeast Asia, attempting to avoid the full effects of these tariffs. And it doesn't stop there. Other countries, such as Canada and Mexico, have retaliated with tariffs of their own. We're seeing a global game of economic chess unfold before our eyes. So, what's the bigger picture here? Are we heading toward a full-blown trade war with multiple countries retaliating? Could this escalate into something much worse for the global economy? Let's take a quick detour into the political arena. These tariffs aren't just about economics, they're about power and influence on the world stage. Trump's supporters argue that these tariffs are necessary to protect US manufacturing jobs and promote fairer trade. But critics are raising alarms about the long-term effects, suggesting that we're isolating ourselves from our biggest trade partners. As the political debates intensify, it remains to be seen how these tariffs will impact Trump's standing with voters. In the upcoming elections, will his America First policy resonate, or will voters demand a more globally cooperative approach? Now that we've dissected the current situation, let's make some predictions about what the future could look like. Will these tariffs lead to a global recession, or will they kickstart an economic revolution in America? Will countries retaliate, and how will that affect global markets? And could we see a shift in the way global trade is conducted altogether? The reality is, the long-term effects of these tariffs are still unfolding. Some experts believe that the US economy may be able to weather the storm, especially with the push for innovation and automation in manufacturing. Others warn that the escalating trade tensions could cause irreparable damage to the global economy. So, what can be done to resolve this issue? Firstly, there's a need for diplomatic negotiations. The US should look for opportunities to renegotiate trade deals with China and other countries in a way that ensures fairer terms for all parties. Secondly, a focus on innovation and self-sufficiency in key industries could help reduce reliance on foreign imports. But ultimately, only time will tell how this bold tariff strategy will play out. Will the US rise to economic dominance, or will the cost of these tariffs be too much for the global economy to bear? So, what does this all mean for you and the world at large? Are these tariffs a stepping stone towards a stronger American economy, or are they just the start of a global trade disaster? Will Trump's gamble pay off, or will we see the return of protectionism, economic isolation, and a fractured global economy? As we continue to monitor these developments, one thing is clear. The world is watching, and the next moves will shape the future of global trade for decades to come. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Should we continue with these aggressive tariffs? Or is it time to find a more balanced approach? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you want more insightful content on global politics, economics, and more. Stay tuned for future updates on this evolving issue.